hard to believe, but today we wrap up our third month of the Summit Sparks podcast. And like the previous 2 months, we are eager to reflect on the different conversations we've had this month with a learning scientist, 3 teachers, and a parent, and to draw common themes and connect patterns that shine a light on content knowledge, why it's important as a commencement level outcome for students, and how a personalized learning environment can help all students demonstrate competency in content across subject areas. As for what content knowledge is, I'll let Dan Schwartz, Dean of the Graduate School of Education at Stanford University, illuminate us with a favorite borrowed Plato analogy.
Content knowledge is like the sun. It is what enables you to see the world, right? Cognitive skills is more like your vision, which you control, that enables you to make connections across things you see in the world. Look for incoherence. Look for consistency. How do you pay attention? What do you look at for quite a while? So knowledge is the sun. And cognition is the process of trying to make sense of what is that information.
Yeah. The what gets at the bigger why question here. Knowledge is a bedrock. Like breathing air, it's something on which we survive. We need content knowledge in order to function, navigate, and make our way in the world. While the way we consume and learn content may change, knowledge has not and is not going away. What content and core subject areas should students master, though, in order to be equipped to lead a fulfilled life? We look to experts, our education leaders who create our curriculums and write our national and state standards, to determine key focus areas and core subjects. Knowledge is variable. Some of it evolves over time, and our standards and curriculum are or should be updated in line with lessons learned. How do students best learn content? To be sure, learning content is never a passive activity. We don't learn by being spoon-fed information out of a text or by staring blankly into a screen. We're endowed with one of the most complex and revolutionary tools of which we know, our brains. And they allow us to tap into those cognitive skills we discussed in last month's podcast, which we use to access, learn, and apply content knowledge. Dan Schwartz explains his teaching approach and how closely intertwined content knowledge and cognitive skills really are in a given subject area.
When I teach, I want them to engage in the cognitive skill that's appropriate for the knowledge domain. So like I teach, if I'm teaching science, I give them data for them to try and figure out sort of what is the pattern. And this turns out to be a very good way to both teach them how to look for pattern, but also to really understand the content knowledge better because they're closer to the phenomenon instead of the abstract theories.
In essence, content and cognitive skills are really 2 sides of the same coin. Very often, there are particular kinds of cognitive skills we're using to access and learn specific sets of content knowledge, such as forming an opinion and crafting an argument in history or analyzing textual evidence in literature. To be sure, many of these skills are transferable across subjects. So, cognitive skills are a key activator for learning and applying content knowledge, but there's more to effectively learning content. To truly master content, kids need to have the opportunity to take responsibility for their own learning. A lesson that Chris Ivins, the parent of a student, Autumn, who used the Summit Learning approach for the first time in 7th grade, learned earlier than many parents.
Looking back kind of big picture, her motivation for learning went from being external, relying on my wife and I or the teacher of telling her to do certain things or whatever, to internal. She took responsibility. You don't have to wait until college to give away the motivation for your kid to really get educated and really take responsibility for what they're learning. You can do that now, and it's amazing.
Students who don't achieve a goal in a key focus area might fail, and that's okay. What we're learning from scientists, and something that good educators have known for years, is that learning is a cyclical process. and that every failure is an opportunity to go back, rethink your strategy for learning, set a new goal, and try again. As I used to tell my third graders, FAIL stands for first attempt in learning. Students need to have opportunities to build this sense of ownership, this autonomy. And as Autumn's 7th grade teacher Tammy Penny attests, the results, though small at first, reap the richest rewards.
And I looked over in the corner of my eye, I saw Autumn, and I saw her close her Chromebook, look up, and her face just lit up. And I just thought, oh, she can't contain it. Wait for it. It's coming. And she just stood and just threw up her arms and just went, yes. and she ran over to me and gave me a big hug. And she was just glowing because she passed her test. But not only that, she worked hard for that, and she learned that content that she needed to learn, and she felt such a sense of achievement and success and pride in herself that she had done it.
But make no mistake, learning new content is not a solitary process. Sure, some of us grow up and master crafts that lend themselves to solitary work, but the majority of work done in this world rests on exchange of ideas and collaboration, and the path towards mastery is one built on social intelligence. We learn new content the same way we've done since we were very young, by observing, by asking good questions, and by teaching others.
Social does so much for us, and we're designed to social interact. All our content is inherently social. It was come up by people, it's people's theories, people chose what to include, so the social shows up in the content. Take the case of peer tutoring, where an older kid tutors a younger kid. This is really successful, and the reason is it's a confluence of all these great social features. The kid is getting immediate feedback. He is having a chance to explain his or her reasoning to the peer. The peer is an older student, so they look up to him and kind of want to be around the older student. So there's all these things that are conspiring for a very effective interaction.
We just heard Dan touch on immediate feedback, which, as all good educators and learners know, is the best way to refine and reach mastery. Through ongoing and frequent feedback from peers, but especially from the experts, our teachers, whom students look to for guidance. And the ability for teachers and students to now use technologies like Google Docs for content creation and collaboration, Khan Academy videos for processing and practicing difficult concepts, and the Summit Learning Platform for taking content assessments and receiving real-time feedback, augments teachers' abilities to reach a diverse set of learners and strategically plan the targeted feedback that each individual student deserves. We heard this month from 8th grade teacher Sarah White about how assessing students' understanding of content through analysis of platform data, combined with daily observations and weekly mentoring sessions, helps her, for example, create intentional study groups and small workshops that address individual or small group learning gaps.
And I think when you give them a little bit more choice in the way they go about learning things, they've learned how they learn best. For students that maybe struggle with content and had, sat in a class where the class has gone too fast for them before and they weren't able to keep up, it allows them to really be able to access those documents as many times as they need to just go at a slower pace and, really focus on, the information that they need to know. As a teacher, it's allowed me to see where gaps are in the students' learning. We can talk about, ways that they've studied in the past and come up with new ways to study. And lots of students think that by looking at, notes on a screen or notes that they've taken on paper, that's studying. But we really get to have a conversation about, that it involves so much more than just looking at something, that you really have to be an active learner and you have to do something with the notes that you've taken.
As a strategic learning tool, technology can provide a certain amount of freedom in how students choose to access content and how quickly they learn. It's certainly not a means to an end, just one important tool that educators and learners have in their toolbox. And that flexibility to learn at one's own pace and to have some control over how we access content in a way that works for how we learn best. Feeds into a larger, more important theme, that learner voice and choice is at the heart of a personalized learning experience. Dr. Matt Doyle, Assistant Superintendent of Innovation for California's Vista Unified School District, worked for over a decade in the classroom, primarily with English learners, and he found that the voice and choice pair are essential for engaging students in the curriculum.
What I've learned over the 14 years as a teacher is that the better I could create the conditions for students to feel like they had some voice and some control and choice in their learning pathway, the more eager they were to adapt to a new language and really invest in their learning pathway. What we've found is that by creating space for students to feel like they have more voice and that there's more opportunity for co-creation, student to teacher, that the student's level of engagement goes up. And there's a direct correlation between students' level of engagement and the student's level of academic achievement. And so it's a bit counterintuitive, but if we address the engagement level of students, it actually will address, over the long run, students' ability to demonstrate their knowledge and capacities academically.
And setting students up so that they feel compelled to invest in their own learning is arguably the key to mastering those content standards and focus areas that we, as a society, find so valuable. I'm Lauren Pagella. Thank you for joining us again this week on Summit Sparks. In January, we take a closer look at Summit's fourth and final student outcome, sense of purpose. Why sense of purpose is important, what's needed as students begin the process of finding or developing a sense of purpose, and how students' progress is assessed. In the meantime, you can find and leave us a review on iTunes. Your ratings help others find us. Did this podcast episode spark an idea or question that you have about personalized learning? Send us your thoughts at community@summitlearning.org. We're always happy to hear what our listeners have to say, and we want to be sure the content we're bringing you each week is useful and engaging. And if you want to find out more about Summit Learning, visit our website at summitlearning.org.